15th, 2024 quarterly CIP workshop. Tonight we're going to be, we have Ms. Frazier's late. I think she's coming, but she's not here now. We're going to be talking about the review and discussion for the proposed park improvements at Buckwalter Place and New Riverside Barn Park. We're going to talk about Buckwalter Place Park update and discussion. We're going to talk about New Riverside Barn Park discussion for the pavilion and New Riverside Barn Park facility rental and operating policies and procedures. So we can get started with the number one on the list. Mr. Pat.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Pat Rooney, Capital Improvement Manager for the Town of Bluffton. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Yeah. I'm here tonight to take you through a couple of park projects, give you an update. They're under design at this point.
I was supposed to ask for public comments first. I didn't saw that on there. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll go through these two projects individually, and I'll stop and, after each one and ask for comments at that time. But if you have any comments throughout the presentation, please feel free to do so. Buckwalter Place Park is the first project we're going to talk about. We brought a conceptual master plan to you back in January. There was two concepts, and you selected one of those projects. Your comments were to provide priority on improving safety and comfort, and include enhanced lighting, raised crosswalks, more shade, and cooling elements to the park. Council also recommended that we kind of do this in a phased manner as opposed to one large project or a single contract. So we're proposing tonight to show you a phasing plan for actually fiscal years 25, 26, and 27. We've already done a few improvements at the park. We added some palm trees, changed out the signage. That kind of thing has already been done in fiscal year 24. We're in the process right now of working on design of phase one. This is the conceptual master plan that you approved back in January. I'm not going to go through this again for you, but I'll go through some specific elements within this part. This is the phasing plan that we're proposing right now. The red is phase one, blue phase two, and green phase three. Phase one really includes the perimeter sidewalks, the entrance off of the northwest corner to access parking areas of the LEC and Evacor for pedestrians. The raised crosswalk across Innovation Drive to connect both east and west parks together. And then also site lighting around the perimeter. You had asked to improve the lighting, so we're putting in some area lighting to match what's existing out there. And then the last item in phase one is the renovation enlargement of the restrooms at the amphitheater building. Phase two is the pavilions, the interactive fountain that we discussed at the meeting in January, and then some arbor swings. Phase three is basically the exercise station with an overhead shade, and then shade structures around some of the seating areas around the perimeter of the site. I want to start out with the restroom. This is in progress plans. The green shaded areas are kind of the expansion of the restrooms. It's basically a shed roof to match existing. It's an extension of the existing restrooms. As you know, right now there's only one single toilet in each facility. We're going to add 2 additional and 2 sinks to both sides. So it's an enlargement of the existing restroom. One thing we talked about at the January workshop was y'all didn't want to see a large-scale splash pad at this park, but you did seem to entertain the idea of an interactive fountain. We told that to our consultant who's working on the design, and they came up with two options for you to consider. One is a misting station. We're doing one of these out at New River Barn Park right now in the playground area, but there's a lot of positives to this particular installation. There's no DHEC permitting required. It doesn't require a lot of water, and not a lot of equipment, and it's less expensive, and again, it uses less water. So there's a lot of advantages to this idea. And this is for that circle area that's out there right now that used to have Evercore Park written across the top of it, if you recall. The other idea that the consultant came up with was basically just flush-mounted jets like you see at Coligny Beach Park. Unfortunately, these things are treated just like a pool, so you do have to go through all kinds of permitting. It does require more water. It does require a lot of equipment. So it's much more expensive option to consider. So there's two options for the interactive fountain. This is just a plan view of that, showing that circle, showing how you bypass it with the trail, where it would fit in. And then just, again, we would try to add some different colored pavement, either cool deck or poured-in-place pavement to make it a little more lively. Back to the misting station, one thing I didn't mention was the photograph on the right there that shows lighting at the top of it. So one of the options that kind of make this more interesting is that you could provide this lighting at nighttime and provide some sort of visual interest at night with these misting stations.
Pat, if I could ask a question, what is that just mist all the time, or it's an on-off when you want to go through it? You hit a button, or how does that work?
If you see that in the photograph to the left,
Yes.
there is a little short bollard. That's a button to activate it. So it wouldn't be on all the time. It would be something that have to be
Comes on,
activated.
cycles off for a minute or something like
Yeah.
that, or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing the consultants had provided to us on this particular park was perhaps using a pre-engineered pavilion as opposed to a stick-built custom. They provided two options that fit that space. One is, more of a hip roof, and the other is more of a gable with shed roofs on the side. Again, these are relatively, in comparison to custom-built, less expensive and maybe appropriate for this particular site. I'd like to hear your opinions on that. And then we have proposed some shade structures around the site, mostly in the seating areas that there's like 5 of them around the linear trail. There's also a shade structure that's proposed over the exercise station area. So these are a couple of options they proposed, either just single post or a cantilevered option. So that's that particular presentation. I'll open it up to the floor to have some discussion about anything in this.
Any questions?
No questions. I mean, I know I wasn't here for the January up here, but going to the water, the fountain, as much as I know how much Councilman Hamilton loves the jets and things, I think that spray option for that park would be my preference. And then do you want me to go through?
One on the poles?
Yes, the one that's up on the screen.
Misting station is what we're calling it. Yeah.
Over the jets where you have to have DHEC and all of that. That'd be a nice addition.
Yeah, Emily, you know you're wrong for that.
Right.
Fred's scared of the water.
You don't want any water.
Yeah, that's Dan and Bridget project right there. I don't have any questions on. I hate that it's going to take us a long time to complete it. That's all.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm more in tune with Emily on the, and I'll give the reason why, for the misting station. A couple of reasons. One is overall expense. The second part is maintenance. versus the other one. And then what I have seen out there, you know, I do check every year, 2 or 3 times a year, or if not more, to see how many people are at the playground. I was always concerned when we put that one there. It does get utilized, but not to the scale that we see in our other parks. So I just feel like this is a little more appropriate for that.
Ms. Frazier?
Great presentation. I love the consideration of the shade sails being added. I do love a good splash pad, everyone knows that, but I'm definitely in favor of option A only because I know with option B in terms of maintenance that it is extremely costly as sediment and other things often find their way into those groundwater jets and the nightmare of digging all that up, and I wouldn't want to, you know, add a project that's going to be just as costly to upkeep as it was to install. So I'm a fan of A. And for the pavilions that you had there, I know that we're looking at the pre-engineered ones that are coming in. I would just asking a question. I don't know if it's allowed or not, but it'd be nice if we are giving like a consideration through our art district for artists to be able to come alongside and do different things in the cultural district. For the pavilions, would it be possible to look at some of our area or local contractors to maybe create some type of partnership in terms of them maybe designing or constructing, you know, one of those pavilions, you know, in lieu of having maybe a name card or something on it that might be an option for us in terms of like looking at cost-wise.
I would tend to, are you finished? I'm sorry. I would tend to go with B, not for the aesthetics, but the concept that it's larger, because all the pavilions in the park get lots of use. Is it?
It looks larger, doesn't it?
It's larger because I see more,
It does look bigger.
well, no, it's the tables I wasn't looking at the dimensions, so I stand corrected. But that's all I've got to say is I know our pavilions do get utilized well, which is good. And so the more the better.
I agree with option B on that, and the everyone else on the sprinklers. I'm going to come back with Fred. Do we have? It's showing us some cost here, Pat, for these particular items, but do we have a total cost for phase 1, or A or B or what?
We have budgeted, I don't know what that number is, but the phase 1 costs are already budgeted for this year. Constance, you
So
might
I'm
look
talking
that
about
up
these
while
3
you're at it.
phases. We're talking about the 3 phases.
This is the project manager on this particular.
Good evening, I'm Constance Clarkson, your project manager for this project. For phase 1, it's $744,190.
But that's not any of the stuff we're looking at.
It includes the,
Huh?
sorry, go ahead. Could you go back to the phase 1 slide? The options you were just looking at,
In red.
the only thing that you saw on the plan, on this projection here, is the bathroom expansion that's in phase 1. The rest of the items are in phase 2 and 3. But we wanted to get your opinion because of the procurement process, et cetera.
I don't know why, but I'm still not getting it. We have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So phase 1 is in the budget for this year?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. To do everything in red.
Do everything in red, yes, sir.
No matter what we choose.
That is correct. Except for the splash pad.
I'm talking about the different styles,
Yes, sir.
things. Ones that cost more, one barn costs more than, one,
Yeah.
you know, we're seeing different numbers here, but
Yes, sir, there's ample contingency built into the budget in the event you pick the higher options.
Yeah, what is, we showed you these options because the consultant is going to go through and do a design for the entire, all 3 phases, and then we'll solicit bid solicitations for each phase each year. So that's why we asked for input now, as we were trying to get input on the pavilions and the interactive fountain and those kinds of things that are in phase 2. But really, only the red is what we're talking about for this year that's been.
Can you go back to the shade? So I kind of liked B, but then I'm looking at where A is, and A seems to be more practical, where the activities are taking place, for me.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I think A makes more sense as, from a usage standpoint, I've not seen many folks seek the opportunity to go to a local park to catch a tan. And I think more parents or those who are with kids would be interested in having shade for themselves or even their child who might be playing on some of the equipment that's there. I don't think B would be that good of a use of our time unless we had like some type of swimming pool or something that would require that.
Okay?
I agree with that,
I agree as well.
and it's cheaper. So the reason, Pat, that we're doing this in 3 phases, I understand this year's budget will only allow in red. We don't even know what the cost is gonna be for phase 2 and phase 3.
It'll be proposed in next year's budget. Those line items will be in there. We are projecting numbers for those phases, but right now, without having these selections made, we probably would just be throwing darts right now.
So we could do, if we had the money, we can do phase 2 and phase 3 and be done with it, right? Instead of stretching it out for 3 years.
That's true. I had to, at the January workshop, I think we were involved in a lot of park projects, moving through them. And there was kind of discussion at that time is we really didn't need to move that fast on this one. We could kind of do it in phases, but we'll do it either way. We have no.
So let me ask this question that used to get asked frequently, and I understand what the mayor's saying, and I like the concept. So if we move a CIP project ahead of some other CIP projects, does that impact in any way?
The other projects? I mean, again, we've already, fiscal year 25 is set, we know what that is. It's fiscal year 26, when we go through that budget process, that's when we would be proposing to do it either in a phase concept or do it all at once. So then that's a decision that y'all will be making during the budget process.
Pat, earlier, you said council decided to do it in phases.
That's what I heard, that's what we heard in the notes.
I recall something about this not being as much of a priority as the New Riverside. We had a little, I think we all kind of gave that consensus that we want to make plans to do this, but this wasn't.
Right.
Maybe, and we
We
decided
have-
that in the council meeting?
I think so. I think I remember us.
It wasn't a vote, more so than just a discussion like this at a workshop.
Yeah.
I remember we were given a list of CIP projects, and we were asked priorities in terms of which were going to take precedence, and I do remember it was supposed to be a phase-out approach. I know with this one.
That's fine. So you'll have all the numbers for us at next budget meetings where we can say, can we do both of them, or do we need to only do one and then put the other one off? That's fine. I understand now.
I agree, let's revisit. Let's revisit, see where we are.
Right.
Especially now that the bond is pretty close to having handle on where we are as far as completion, right?
You know, New Riverside Bar? That's the next project we're going to talk about. You may recall, we presented a conceptual master plan to you in October of 2020 that we've been using as a guide for the design for all the work from that point on. Phase 1 was, contract was executed for all the infrastructure in 2021, and that's substantially complete. That's roads and utilities and such. Phase 2, that's the contract with Nix, which is a contract manager at risk, which is all of the big items, the playground, the restrooms, the barn, all of that. That's under construction. Our plan is to complete the playgrounds, restroom, and parking by the end of this calendar year, and have a ribbon cutting sometime right after the first of the year. And then the barn is going to go on construction throughout '25 and be finished before the end of 2025.
Let me clarify something. Put it back on that last screen. Our contract was with Nix, not JS.
We have
JS is-
we had a phase one, which was parking, utilities, sewer, water, some of the pathways. That was a phase one construction contract in 2021 that got the site ready so that Nix can do the larger contract. So there was an initial contract with JS, and then his work's complete, and now it's all in Nix's hands to complete the next phase of the project.
Okay.
This is the master plan that was presented back in 2021 for that initial contract. Basically, all of the, let's see if this works. Yes, I got my mouse working here. Basically, everything in the cleared kind of area, the open fields, that's what we're working on right now. The only thing that wasn't in JS or Nix's contract was these nature trails, which we propose those as a future plan. So we're working towards completion of this document right here. So, simplify it. Those trails are still a future implementation item. We've also had discussions. The trails are under design now, and the future maintenance building is something that's been discussed, and we're moving forward with design on that right now as well. There's only one item in here that was not discussed previously, and that's what's this future event pavilion. It's something that we've looked at as staff going out there and investigated the site. Saw this as an opportunity. It's a low point of the site. All of the slopes up to the barn, slopes up to Highway 46, 170. So it's a perfect spot for a pavilion / bandstand type development.
Let me ask you about that. I remember originally, years ago, when we first started down this road, we were hopeful that the barn would be able to be opened up and have like a symphony music right there, projecting out to the event lawn. Of course, now, as you just talked about it, it's always been opposite what it needed to be for that to happen. So this event lawn, I mean, what's the scale of that? How many people could you envision there?
I have numbers. I can't give them to you off the top of my head because I don't remember exactly, but you can put like 4,000 people in that area.
Is that large?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a big area.
That to me makes
It
far
depends
more
on
sense.
how you see people.
So the pavilion that you're speaking about would be open like a pavilion all our
Open.
others?
And it'd be open in both directions so that it actually services the event lawn adjacent to the barn or the big meadow that is on the other side.
Big enough to put a good size band underneath it? To
Yeah,
play
it's-
events for us?
it's
and
not-
The people are actually sloping where they're looking at the right way.
Yes.
All right.
We've looked at a few options here, and the executive staff has kind of moved towards an open pavilion as opposed to a large-scale amphitheater. And because of the fact that if like a symphony orchestra comes out, generally they'll bring their own stage, their own equipment. They don't need a huge facility for that. This is something that we foresee for outdoor weddings, family reunions, music events. The issue here is that the two pavilions we have on site are in the playground. Those are really more for kids' birthday parties, children events, so there's nothing really for kind of community organizations or family reunions or like you say, a small band, that kind of thing to set up for concert in the event lawn. So what I'm going to show you now is two options for a pavilion. This one shows a partially open, partially closed pavilion with some storage on the side and about a 32 by 38 open area in the center. It picks up some of the detail of the barn in terms of the siding and that type of thing, and the type of roof structure and that type of thing. So that's one option we're looking at. So this one, the difference on this one really is it's got a little less floor space, undercover, and more storage already built in for, electrical equipment, AV, any kind of equipment that might be needed out here. Second option that we got shown here is a pavilion that's basically the same size, but it's all open. There is no, storage area in the back or on the side. So you see through it a little bit more in this case. Again, these are both shown with, one was shown with kind of a small band playing in it. The other one is with a wedding ceremony, which could take place indoor or outdoor. Or, in this case, it's got a little larger floor area. You could set up for a pretty good sized wedding underneath there. It's about 30 by 42, something like that. It's a pretty good size area. So that's really, I want to just kind of throw out the idea of the pavilion, whether or not you wanted to do something in that area. I encourage you to go out there and look at this site, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how it's kind of set up perfectly for a type of a bandstand type of thing. So I'd just like to have your opinion. Do you have any opinion on the two options?
Yeah, I have I think it's a great idea in terms of adding and utilizing the space for an event pavilion, only because it now pushes and encourages those who want to have events, gives another option and doesn't saturate, all the spaces that we have in the Old Town area. I like option 2 better than option 1, only because I think of some of the other pavilions that we have, like Oyster Factory Park and Oscar Frazier, and I don't know that we have ever had a need for storage for like AV or outside electrical use, but I know that having that wide open space has been great in the event. Like someone who was planning an event on the grounds were able to come under that pavilion for coverage, and even at Oyster Factory Park, I don't know the square footage of that, but that space has been great to accommodate things like that, and I can easily see people preferring the option for that, because option 1 seems more suited to accommodate just the band, and whereas option 2 utilizes or could be multi-purpose for whether it's an event setting up, having their entertainment under there, or someone having an event and needing to have a backup option to have shelter under rain, or just someone wanting to stage maybe their picnic or reunion under it. I see option 2 being more used opposed to option 1 would be my preference would be option 2.
I have a very profound thought. Ditto.
Very profound, Dan.
Fred?
My thought is a little bit more profound than Dan's. I like this, where you have the option 2, some of the facade of option 1, I would like
I agree.
Like the red to match the
Right.
barn and the cupola being a little different. Like that, but open.
right.
I agree with that. I think option 2 looks a little mountainy. And so whether it's brick instead of that, it looks like stone, maybe brick instead of that, and I think the red, but.
I think they might have, I asked them about that, and they suggested that might be tabby. Like,
Tell them that they don't live here.
Well, it probably does. I think option 1, though, gives that match to Councilman Hampton and Councilman Burton's point. It gives the rustic feel of a barn and definitely makes it more cohesive in terms of aesthetics than option 2. Doesn't mesh well.
Well, I like the looks of option 2 as well, but I wish we could have some storage in option 2. Have the same look, because storage for tables and chairs are something that every event needs, or pretty much.
Is
You know,
there
whether
storage
it's,
in
you
the-
see the people sitting there.
Is
If
the-
we-
You don't
if
have any
we're
storage on the
providing
property?
it-
You know, it's not the
Well,
storage on the
that's-
property?
I guess we'd just have to, and would this be accessible by a, you know, like a truck delivering tables and chairs?
Yeah, we've set it up so that basically the food truck drop-off also has removable bollards that you can follow that out to the event lawn area. So, yes.
That's a lot of work, you know, trying to haul
yeah.
tables and chairs that,
That wouldn't be, to your point, Mayor Toomer, that wouldn't necessarily, from the utilization of what we've seen, outside of RCC, where we do have tables and chairs provided, our other pavilions, folks contract their own vendors to come and deliver and pick up and drop off and set up those tables and chairs. So that's why storage, I personally don't see that storage would be a best use of an addition to take away space from a pavilion, as we wouldn't be the ones who, you know, who they'd be looking for an outside space like this.
And we had the same conversation to go along with that when we were kind of talking internally about the music as well, because part of the other one with the storage would allow us to have some sound components in there. But if a band's going to come, they usually bring their own speakers, their own mixers, their own, especially like symphony orchestra or a big concert, they're going to want, if we build it to meet what everybody needs, then it's going to be way overbuilt for 90%. So that's where I think without the storage, it falls on the people who are renting it to set it up the way they want it. And I think we're comfortable with that. That's why we wanted to show both options. But we've had that same conversation about music as well.
so I like option 2.
Okay.
So it seems the consensus is option 2 with features of option 1
Yes.
kind of worked in with the red barn look.
All right, that's all
And
I got
bring
for
your own
you.
tables.
Excuse me?
And bring your own tables.
BYOC, bring your own
Bring your
chairs.
own tables.
Thank you.
So, up next. Got 2, New Riverside Barn Park Facility Rental and Operating Policies and Procedure, Miss.
Rent this facility, all parts of it. So I'm going to just move forward here and give you a little bit of background on the park, which you've already very familiar with. But the town purchased this facility back in 2018, and the 37-acre parcel has an iconic barn feature. It's seen from Highway 46 and 170. And the town felt it was important to give this very fast-growing section of Bluffton their own park to create a community park where all ages could enjoy. Okay, this is going to be your overall site plan here of the park, and I'm going to try to find my mouse like Pat had. Okay, so I'm just going to point out some features here. There's my mouse. Okay, so we have a walking trail here that's already completed, and that is going to be the perimeter of the actual, let's see, where are we here? Sorry. This is the large event lawn here, and this walking trail follows the perimeter of this. And if you come over here, the little dotted lines here are going to be the second phase of the walking trail that's actually going to add an extra half-a-mile loop. Then that is still under the design phase and will go into the fiscal year 2026. Hold on.
Is the existing
It
walking
is-
trail a half a mile?
It is a third
Third.
of a mile, yes, sir. So a third of a mile, and then we will have an additional half a mile once that comes into play. Oh, thank you. Okay, and then you heard Pat discussing the food truck area here. This food truck area is also going to be a drop-off area for the pavilions and the playground, and it's currently staged for 5 food trucks to be able to pull in there. They have 5 pedestals with 30 amps, so the food trucks will be able to plug in there easily, and we won't have to deal with the generators. And there will be bollards there to make a very distinct defining line between where the pedestrians will be able to be and vehicular area. with those bollards, they're also retractable, so you'll be able to get through that area and head right into the large event space in case you have a large event that food trucks would need to be able to access. And let's see here. We have the parking lot here, which has about 120 parking places. And then over here, we have about 100 parking spaces here with the availability of overflow parking here, just a little bit behind the barn park area for additional bigger facility rentals or bigger events. This is just your overall view of the site of the barn. And this is just going to show you the barn has got a nice drop-off pad here to be able to enter. This is the front here. It's got a covered porch. There's a nice enclosed courtyard here. This is a really nice up-to-date catering kitchen. I was just out there today and I couldn't believe this facility. It's amazing. And then right through here is the little walkway with the little fire pit and an oyster pit area. And then there's a little bridgeway here that you can cross over and get to the walking trail. So before I jump in and ask your input on how you want to see this area managed on a day-to-day operation, I've just put this slide up here just to kind of show you some of the pictures that the actual park has right now. It's coming along really, really well, and it's going to be quite a state-of-the-art playground. I don't think there's anything like it anywhere around here, so people will be coming from all areas of Bluffton to enjoy this. Just a sample of one of the pavilions here, and there are actually two. Let's see, I've already gone over the parking. And then this is just a picture of the barn. And the barn is anticipated to be completed by the end of December 2025. This area will actually be roped off so the public can not have access to it while it's being completed in construction. This is going to have a 2,700 square foot facility, which we will foresee banquets, weddings, and all other types of meetings. And right now, the approximate capacity is for 170 people. And the barn will have catering kitchen, outdoor porch, courtyard, oyster cooking area, and bathrooms. And the inside of the barn is going to have a cottage-style feel. It's going to have tongue and groove, whitewashed vaulted ceilings, exposed wooden beams, chandeliers, and the walls will be shiplap, and it will have luxury vinyl plank flooring. So that's just kind of an overview of where we are so far. And so I'm really here tonight to see what your input and your guidance on how you would like to see the barn and the other facilities out there run, as far as reservations, management, rentals, that type of thing. If you foresee this being managed by town staff, or if you want to have this outsourced to a third party. So I'm here to answer any questions or discuss this. We'd have the two options. If we do manage it in-house with staff, we would anticipate having to have at least one full-time person and probably two part-time people out there. And if it's managed by an outsourced company, then we would just have a little bit smaller oversight on actually the day-to-day operations over there, and then they would actually be responsible for everything that takes place in the facilities. So that's really why I'm here tonight, is to kind of pick your brain and figure out what you see moving forward with how you want this to be handled.
Burden, comments?
Should I just go through the different questions and go?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just conversation.
First of all, I think it's very exciting. It looks beautiful, and it really seems, the closer we get to opening.
It's really nice.
Yeah. So I think I agree that it's going to be rented on a very regular basis. My initial thought is for the rentals, reservations, and management to be overseen by the town, just so we have more control over it. So that would be my opinion on that. Do you want to allow the public to reserve with a fee? And I would say yes. I think a fee for the barn, the event lawn, of which I would think that if we do this pavilion if someone's renting the barn, we would obviously want to give them the option to rent both
Exactly.
spaces.
Right.
Just so it's not two different weddings going on or two different events that music could fight with, or contradict each other. So I would say yes to reserving with the fee all of those. Now, let me ask you a question. With the food trucks, can they go out there, I mean, can you rent a food truck spot anytime you wanted to?
So that would have, the way it is now, the food trucks have to be associated with a special event permit.
Okay,
So they
just a
can't just
Friday
show
night,
up.
They can't just show up, I mean, pay their
No.
fee, reserve it, but go on a Friday night. when
Right, so it would have
families are
to,
out there.
it would have to be, say, like the farmer's market or the art and seafood festival. It has to be associated with an actual event permit to be able to show up and sell food.
Do you want the event lawn and festival lawn to be available rented prior to the barn opening? I think that would make sense. Go ahead and let the residents start using it. Reduced fees for nonprofit. I would say yes to that as well. Providing tables, chairs, I would say no, that for renting them themselves. And then we would allow alcohol on this park. I know some of the parks can and can't, but we.
Right.
Okay, so any specific rules to this park? I guess that was my main question. And then at 10 o'clock is when the events would have to end, is that right?
Well, that, currently, if it stays the same as the special event ordinance that we have now, and if you wanted to change it to either being open later, or if you had a certain time frame, if you're going to rent the barn, you have to rent it for 3 days, or whatever you see fit is, it could be changed, or it could stay the same.
Okay, I guess I'll see. Are we going to get into the details of that tonight, though? Like what time for it to close and how many hours and
We
all of
can
that?
come back to
Is that
that
what you're
later,
looking-
just
okay,
trying to
sounds
figure
good.
out whether we're going to focus on town staff moving forward with the operation plan or having it outsourced. I did want to get your opinion. Right now, the pavilions at the Oscar Fraser Park and the Bose Park are first come, first serve. And we'll have the 2 pavilions out there by the playground and the restrooms. Do you have an opinion on whether those should continue to be first come, first serve? Or do you think they should be reservable but with no fee, or reservable and follow the facility rental process?
I mean, I think it'd be nice to be able to reserve it with a fee for birthday parties and things like that at the playground. I think it's, if you play it by ear, especially when you think about something like a birthday party, which I think is what, the ones downtown get used for a lot.
Yes,
It's
frequently.
a little bit hard. So reserved with a fee would be
Okay.
really good on that one.
Okay.
Mr. Hamilton?
I mean, I love to see staff, however we have to arrange employ, I'd like to see staff controls it. I think we have done a great job with staff thus far. I don't see any reason why we should deviate from what we do well.
Right.
Okay. The last question you just asked, Ms. Burden, was, should we leave pavilions to first come, first serve? I think we should. And I also think that if someone wants to preserve it, then we can have a fee for someone, because most of what I see in Beaufort County is that if you have a party of less than 25, you don't have to reserve it. So, but if someone wants to have a larger event, then we can say that this part of the park is already rented, and put signs up that says that it's rented for today, and so no
Okay.
one can just show up and use it. And yes to everything that Emily said so far.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilman Hamilton. So, and I'm just going off the size with what we talked about earlier, and that's why we wanted to have these together, as we talked about another pavilion that would be bigger that we talked about earlier. So would it be reasonable to say, like, maybe the smaller ones by the playgrounds would be first come, first served, and if somebody has a bigger event, like more than 25, then they would need to rent the other one like we talked about tonight for a bigger event kind of venue.
I think that's manageable the way you just explained it, that we wouldn't want the bigger venue to be a first come, first served, because that would always be more than 25.
Right, and so really, if the other ones that we have in place, if it's gonna be a bigger one, they're probably gonna need to be either both or moving to a bigger one. Okay, I just wanted to make
Thank you.
notes.
Before I go into the rest of the council, I'm just going to throw some food for thought in here. What I have seen that happens, like, and I go to a lot of birthday parties. So you're planning a birthday party. Okay, meet us at Shrimp Boat Park. Party starts at 2:00. And you get there and there's somebody already there and you got 40 kids coming to your birthday party and no facility.
That's why you should reserve it.
You were saying first come, first served.
No.
Unless.
I said if someone reserve it, then we put a notice up that is reserved for this day, and this time.
So that would have to be like a placard or something where
Right.
people could come and check. Mr. Wood?
How's the Rotary building managed?
So that is, okay, exactly what do you mean by that?
Who manages it? Town
Me.
staff?
So yes. So I manage, me, yes,
So we're not using a third?
not for any town facilities currently.
I do believe that this park will be immensely used, and so I think it's good in the beginning to start out with staff, and then again, if it gets to be more than we can handle down the road, then you just have to come back and let us know. You'll learn a lot the first year.
Right.
Regarding the pavilions, I like the first come, first served concept. I see it all the time across the street. We don't have enough pavilions to accommodate everybody, and we never will. I've seen 3 to 4 birthday parties. As a matter of fact, last weekend and the weekend before, there were 3 birthday parties simultaneously at Dubose Park. Some people are just fortunate enough to get there early enough to set up, and they get the pavilion, but it doesn't work for everyone. So, but they still manage. They go to one side of the park and they have their birthday parties. I think what I've heard, the second pavilion, I can see that one being different. So what I'm really saying is I would think the pavilion near where the kids and the families are at, first come, first served for me. The other pavilion, I can see where that could be used more for events and things like that. But even still, a family doing a birthday party could reserve it if they wanted to. The other part, I don't know how I feel about the event and festival lawns being rentable. That's a good question. I don't have an answer for. I know at Wright Family Park, one of the things that was important to me was that we realize it's a public park and not to close down the public park for people coming in and paying money to take it over like we were able to do at Oyster Factory Park. It's a different animal. It's segregated. It's totally different.
Right.
So I have I don't know, I have mixed feelings on that topic. As to the barn, I think the barn has a real opportunity for overuse if we're not careful. So I think we have to be real particular on how we let the barn be rented. I can see weddings there, I can see some venues there, maybe even a small family reunion. But the one thing that I want to be careful about is, and maybe I'm wrong when I say this, but I believe there's some of our parks in the community that, we believe in public use, and we've always believed in nonprofits having access to our facilities. But some people use their business models to dominate our parks. That's my feeling. And so that is one thing I do not want to see here. And I think at some point we got to get a grasp on that. It's getting away from the mission of what the parks are supposed to be about. So that's my views. I think we got to be very careful on that barn and figure out how we manage it, but also don't let it become overused, because then it will be over-abused.
Going back to the first question, I'm definitely in favor of keeping the governance and operations of the barn and the facilities there within the town's purview. However, I do foresee, especially looking at how we are expanding the parks that we do have in the town, and we are expanding those assets that do require management and maintenance. It's almost like at some point, there's going to be a need for it to have its own department to be able to keep up with that and not operate in a sense as it is now, because I honestly don't know how you do it. It is a lot. Planning one event is a lot. And to add a year of private events and town-sponsored events, it's extremely, extremely daunting. So that's my thought on that. But one of the concerns that I have in terms of keeping it under town governance is just that there's so many other things that come to play. When I saw a question here about they would be responsible for operations of the facility, and it's kind of like, well, if maintenance needs comes up, you know, who do they report to for that? And are they being accurate in terms of keeping us, you know, updated on what exactly is going on there, what issues are being housed there? Because whatever happens at that space becomes a reflection still on the town of Bluffton and not the person who we might be contracting out. And I could easily see it becoming a, well, I'm just doing my job thing. That's a town of Bluffton issue. So we can kind of prevent that by keeping it under our control. Also, just looking at also like if there becomes, you know, an issue. I know one of the things that residents have enjoyed is being able to know that there's emergency contact, and it's not just a number that goes, you know, to like a dead hole somewhere. They get someone, either you or someone from Public Works is able to come out and address it. So that for me would become a concern in contracting it out is, will we still be able to maintain that same type of relationship? Because when you're at an event and if you get there and like there's no electricity and that third party person's like, I'm 9 to 5, I'm not answering after hours, you know, then I just think of like all those issues that come up and we don't have control outside of saying, well, you know, we are working with the company and you'd have to reach out to them for that. When it comes to question 2, I think all the spaces should be reserved with the fee except for the pavilions, only in a sense of whatever we do needs to be consistent with what we're already doing. And so to have use at our other parks where we do have a first come, first serve basis, you know, we need to maintain that or go back and revisit then if we are going to charge something, even if it's nominal, just to say that like we, you know, we're not discriminating in terms of one park from the other, with the exception of the larger one that Pat presented, we gave questions on. I think that's a little bit different than the smaller ones we see people use for birthday parties. That is a large event one, and so I think if it's being used for that purpose, of course, but if it's someone just coming up and sitting under it, you know, that dine or have a picnic with their family, shouldn't be a charge. But if it's an event, it definitely should be. For the food truck row, you answered my question with the number of spaces. My few questions on that is, I know there's electricity set. Is there also water access along that area?
Not that I know of. Pat, do you know if we have water there?
Restrooms, there would be spigots there, but no, there's no hose bibs that I know of right in that area.
Because I know that's been one of the features that food trucks have noted about Oyster Factory Park and Oscar Frazier's, that there is, where food trucks have gathered, there is spigot access to be able to fill their potable tanks. So for a venue space this size, that is definitely something to consider,
Okay.
to be able to have access to. And with the food trucks, I think to be able to like make sure that one person doesn't dominate or have a monopoly, I don't think it should necessarily be like a daily fee to be there. I think they definitely should be a licensed, you know, truck with the town of Bluffton, have their permits, but they should be going through whoever is maintaining that schedule in terms of having the permission to be there. And so like, you know, ahead of time who's coming, and it's not just like a free-for-all
Right.
type thing, and we're able to rotate that. And let's see. And for the
You
last,
mean you have more?
I mean, consider this is like Dan looking at a report about like fiscal responsibility. Offense, you know, so on the last slide of questions that you had on, do we want it to be available, rented prior to the barn opening? I'd say yeah, as long as it's not a hazard to the public. So like if, you know, the construction around that area is like free and clear and it's good to do it, I say go ahead. Because as you pointed, people are definitely dying to get in there. For nonprofit organizations, I think we should look at it in a sense of, you know, when it's a meeting space that nonprofits have for our existing, you know, things, it's a little bit different. If it's an event of a large scale, I think like TCL and Sun City have great models where you're not getting like a 70% reduction to use it, but it's, you know, it could be a 10%, you know, difference, whatever it is. I think the amenities in this space are just so much larger than others. You can't look at it with the one size fits all there. So I think it should be comparable in terms of the maintenance and needs for that space. Yes to tables and chairs. I think to have for that particular barn venue space it's going to be rented, I think that becomes a justification in what you're going to be charging in terms of fees, knowing that that is provided. And if we're not going to do the full tables and chairs to accommodate that occupancy of 170, even if it's like half, only because we at times use it for town stuff. So who's to say that it's not hosted for a strategic, you know, workshop or some type of, or our Thanksgiving, you know, event, you know, to be able to have access to those tables and chairs, I think would be great. And the only rule I think, well, I didn't have a rule. I just want to make sure that alcohol is allowed to in that park. And that's it for me.
Okay,
Could you go back to one?
there you go.
What I'd like to see on, when we get into the rental of the barn, we need some comps. You know, what's it cost in Beaufort, what's it cost on Hilton Hill? So that we can look at those numbers to help us. I don't mind being a little cheaper, but we can't be too cheap or we're gonna allow it to become commercialized and it's for the people to use. So, I definitely want it under the control of town staff. If we need more people, we just have to find more people with more money to pay them, in my opinion. The reservation, yeah, I don't know how, Lindy, you know what you deal with now, and I know, like Bridget said, I know, we're in the similar businesses. It's a wagon load. I don't know how the communication about the parks could be, you know, they just go on our website and look to see what's available like we do now.
So I get both. I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails just asking if the venue is available on a certain date. And then I get a lot of people that just go on our website and read the description of what's available. And on the calendar, we have live up-to-date calendar. We'll put a request in, and then I get a notification. So I'll go and respond to that with an email and send them the facility rental paperwork. So I get both.
Yeah. So when you rent a place, just say the Worcester Factory Park or whatever, to whoever, us or whoever. So if somebody says, well, we're going to have a meeting or a birthday party or whatever, and they go in at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're there, and then there's a scheduled event where someone's already rented the park, do you see that often?
No.
I have seen it, but
So,
I'm not.
I would say the only time I've seen that maybe is somebody goes to the Worcester Factory Park Pavilion
Right.
And they have heard that the pavilions are first come, first served.
Right.
And that pavilion whole side area is already rented. But usually the person that's renting it just says simply, hey, we've rented this for a wedding and blah, 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 blah. And the person gets up and moves and goes to the other pavilion. So I really haven't had a whole lot of problems with that.
I would just imagine that would be a problem.
That could be
Yeah.
placards.
You know, that could.
Yeah,
That could.
but
And I
I've
don't
really-
have the answer how you.
Yeah, I haven't had a whole
Minute
lot of
either.
problems with that.
Okay, move on to 3. I'm good with all this. I'm good with the lawn for an event, I think, if they're not gonna damage anything. Before I forget, though, we definitely need water, as Bridget was saying. I'm sure we're gonna be running irrigation, but need water just to be able to wash things down. You know, kids are gonna turn over french fries and ketchup. They're gonna be on the walkway, so water, is a must. And I personally would like to see under those smaller pavilions, we need picnic tables or something. Because a mom that's gonna be putting on a birthday party for 10 or 12 kids probably doesn't have a pickup truck and might not have enough help. And picnic tables like we have in our, at Du Bois Park and Worcester Factory Park, some should be there. So.
And that's the plan for those.
Okay.
The only one, with the new one we talked about tonight, was the only one that we talked about not providing the tables and chairs. And based on the conversation we've had kind of with council up here tonight, is the ones by the playground would have just be like all the other ones.
Right.
And then the bigger one would be a for rent space that somebody would have to plan an event for.
Right.
So I think everybody seemed consensus on that.
And those pavilions, Pat, as well, they need water.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a hose bib that we can keep it locked or whatever we need to do. So I'm good. I don't guess we're getting into how much money for any of that tonight, right?
No, so for tonight, what we really wanted and what Lindy was trying to get to is just kind of some of the overlapping themes that we have within some of the other parks, how we want to treat this one maybe compared to how we treat Rotary Center, compared to Oyster Factory. So we can then go and start putting the rules together, the rental rates, because all that will be approved, the rental rates will be approved as part of the fee schedule for the budget for next year. And we need to get the operating procedures and policies put in place to bring back to y'all, and we'll get into those details then, especially about the hours, the rentals, and all that kind of stuff, just because we'll want to have those in place so we can start advertising it out for rent and have everything ready for people to sign and be willing to agree to. So we're looking at probably 4 to 6 months to have everything finalized, worked, and ready to be in place so we can advertise it for rental. So that means a couple months to bring back some drafts, adopt the fee schedule during the budget process, and be ready, say like July 1, to start advertising it for use in 26.
Right. And you're gonna use comps to bring us some comps so that we
Yes.
can
Yes.
have something to go on.
I do want to add one more thing. When we're looking at the rental schedule and as you're like putting some things together, because of the size of the park and because there are so many spaces that could be rented, I think it should be a consideration to have like a separate pricing schedule, of course, for each of those, but also looking at, well, if someone decided to rent all of them, at once, what would that look like?
Right.
And in our line of thinking also, we have to be considerate of the real world, the places that have wedding venues, that do that for a living. So while we want to provide a service to our citizens, we definitely don't want to hurt our constituents that are making a living
Right.
doing something,
Right.
by being too cheap, or
Right.
whatever. Anything else from council? I think that's all on our agenda, so is there a motion to adjourn?
Thank
So
you.
moved.
Thank you.